Light a candle and turn out the lights. We're going to Creepy Town. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the ranch. I'm Dr. Lee, and yes, we're out here early again on another video. 2 in a row we've been out early. Last time I was trying to beat the wind noise. This time I'm trying to beat the noise of all the devices of destruction my neighbors have employed as they continue to rape their land over there. In about another hour, it's going to be so noisy here it won't even be worth trying to make a video. So we're going to squeak this one in, kind of rushed this morning. So forgive me if it obviously appears that way. But anyway, I hope you guys all had a wonderful Mother's Day. We did. And I apologize for tying ghost stories and moms on Mother's Day all together in one video. But the only other video I had in the queue was a video about old bats. And I knew that wouldn't fly. So been married long enough, you know, we learn. Sometimes it takes a while, but we learn. Anyway, thanks so much for dropping by today. It's good to have you here. I always appreciate your visits and all the kind comments you guys leave in the comment section. So anything heavy on your heart or on your mind, please feel free to just put it down in the comment section. You know what to do, and we'll do the best we can to help you or pray for you, whatever it is. Don't hesitate. Anyway, this video today is going to be another odd one, as is the norm around here. And right now I'm sitting out in front of the farmhouse. This old farmhouse was built in 1890. And according to one of my neighbors who passed away about 30 years ago at the age of 90, he said he and his daddy used to go up and down the creek on horseback, and this particular part of the ranch right here is where they built the old ranch headquarters back in 1890. And scattered around the yard is nice yard furniture like this. They didn't have Home Depot and folding aluminum chairs back then, so they kind of had to build their own. But all around the ranch are creations just like this, and some of them are quite interesting and quite amazing. This particular bench that I'm sitting on used to sit down there by that tree, but it was just built on the ground. It was not reinforced, and it wasn't long until the roots of that old tree broke it all to pieces. And my wife always commented that she would like for me to go out there and put that thing back together. And then she also commented that she wished it was closer to the house, because at that time we had little kids. So 1 week she was gone before Mother's Day, and in that week I disassembled this entire thing, which used to be 50 yards down that way, and took pictures of it, labeled all the rocks, brought it up here, poured a concrete slab first, and then I rebuilt this bench on that. And that was her Mother's Day present when she arrived back home. And that was all good and well, except all the Mother's Day presents since then, all the flowers and candies and cards, have pretty much paled in comparison to the week's amount of work that I put in moving this little bench for her. I think next time I rebuild one of these, I'm going to rebuild it a little bit softer. You can sit on this thing for about 20 minutes, and then that's about it. But nevertheless, what I'm talking about here does tie into our ghost stories for today, because one of them does have to do with this old house. So you're up for ghost stories today? Well, you know, a lot of you have always kind of said that you think I'm a little bit crazy. Today I will remove any doubt. Ghost story number 1, and this one ties in with my mom, so it kind of fits the Happy Mother's Day vibe we've got going here today. My mom was the youngest in a family of 8 children, the oldest child was my mom's biggest brother. His name was Key. And Key was one of those child prodigy type. He was very, very brilliant, excelled at all schoolwork. He was always number one in his class. He was a very friendly boy and very kind, and everyone loved Key. Sadly, Key was very deformed. His legs were deformed, his arms were deformed. He had a lot of struggles. You have to realize he was born back in the early 1900s, probably 1915, somewhere around there. And he had passed away even before my mom was born. He had passed away before my mom's oldest sister, Helen, was born too. My grandmother told me this story about Key. He was sickly. They struggled with him all his life, and like I said, when he was 17 he passed away. And again, my mom and her sister never got to see Key. He had already passed away by the time they were born. My grandmother told me the story of one day she was in cooking breakfast for the family, and Helen popped out of bed, which was quite unusual that early in the morning, came running through the kitchen, headed out the front door, and my grandmother hollered at her on her way out the door, "Helen, don't be long, breakfast will be ready in just a few minutes." And in a few minutes, Helen came back in. The front door came into the kitchen where my grandmother was cooking, and she had something in her hand. And my grandmother looked down at her, little 5-year-old Helen, and she said, "Helen, what have you got there?" And she said, this little iron horse." And my grandmother looked at it and kind of gasped just a little bit, and she said, "Oh my goodness, that was Key's horse, and we haven't seen it since before he passed away." And she said, "Helen, where did you get it?" And Helen said, "I dug it up out by the well." And my grandmother was just shocked, and she said, "How did you know it was out there?" And my Aunt Helen, little 5-year-old Helen, said, "Well, Mom, Key came to me last night. He told me where it was, and he told me to go get it." So there you go. Ghost story number 1 in the books. Ghost story number 2, for those of you poor souls who are still here. Ghost story number 2 has to do also with my mom. So once again, happy Mom's Day to my mom in heaven. My mom was not blessed with good kidneys. She lost one early, and the other one never really worked all that well by itself either. So she struggled and struggled with that. She finally passed away several years ago from kidney failure. Back then, dialysis and kidney transplants weren't at all as commonplace as they are today, and she succumbed to her disease. But nevertheless, I had gone up there about a week before she died, and we had a good visit. So I knew when I left that day that I probably would never see my mom alive again. And like I said, a week passed. My sisters called me, said, "Mom's dying, Lee, and she's not responsive." And I said, "Okay, I'll be up there." So I headed up to my old hometown. It's about a 6-hour drive from here. And I got up there. The doctor caught me at the door, an old doctor I'd known forever. And he said, "Lee," he said, "your mom's not going to respond to you at all. She's been unconscious for a couple of days, and she's not responding to anything. I just wanted to warn you before you go in there." And I said, "Okay, I appreciate that." So I went in there and talked to my sisters for a minute, and then I walked over to my mom's bed, and I leaned down and I kissed her on the cheek, and I said, "I'm here, Mom." And I said, "I love you, Mama." And little tears came out of her eyes and ran down the sides of her face. So I knew my mom was reaching back through the clouds of death just to tell me one more time she loved me. And she never responded again the rest of the day. So I spent about another 6 or 8 hours there at the hospital with my sisters that day, and we decided to rotate shifts with Mom, and my sister was going to take the first watch, so I drove back home, which was a mistake. Again, it was 6 hours up there. I'd spent another 6 or 8 hours there at the hospital, and here I took off on another 6-hour jaunt back home. I was falling asleep at the wheel. I was running off the road. I drank copious amounts of Roadhouse coffee and ate chocolates and took breaks, and it was a wreck. I was just blessed to get back home without causing an accident. But I came in the house and I was trashed, and I remember sitting on the edge of the bed and I just could not wait to close my eyes. And my wife came in there and she sat there beside me and she said, well, tell me all about it. And I said, well, Mom's not going to make it. Mom's going to die. She'll probably be dead by tomorrow. And I said, honey, I am so tired right now. I've just got to sleep. I can't stay awake another minute. My wife understood, and she said, okay, well, I'm going to go take a shower. And I said, okay. So I lay down in bed and I just closed my eyes, and I was just about to go to sleep, I could tell. And my wife walked by me, and I thought, oh, please don't say anything at all. And she didn't. She just reached down and she just patted my shoulder like that. And she went to take her shower. And it wasn't just a couple of minutes later, the phone rang, and it was my sister Debbie on the phone. And she just told me, she said, Lee, Mom just passed away. And I said, oh, well, goodness. And I said, Debbie, I'm just trashed. I'll call you back in the morning. And Debbie goes, okay. So Debbie hung up, and I lay there, and for some reason, I could not sleep. And I was laying there, and just my mind was racing. And my wife came back in from taking her shower, and I said, well, honey, I said, Debbie just called and said, Mom just passed away. And she said, oh, I didn't hear the phone ring. And she said, when did she call? And I said, right after you walked by me and patted me on the shoulder when you went to take your shower. And my wife looked at me, she hesitated for a minute, and she said, honey, I didn't pat you on the shoulder. She said, that was your mom telling you goodbye, telling you she loved you. So, goes story number 2 in the books. Go story number 3. And for those very few of you who are still here, like Uncle Floyd always used to say, bless your little pointy heads. So anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for enduring 2 ghost stories. I hope you can handle the 3rd. This ghost story has to do with this old farmhouse, again built in 1890. Under these great big giant oak trees. These oak trees are so big, they're over 300 years old. It takes about 3 big fellas to be able to reach around the circumference of these trees. They're really, really neat. The house is crappy, but the trees are gorgeous. But anyway, this ghost story has to do with all these old rock furnishings that are around here in the yard. It has to do with these big, beautiful trees. It has to do with another rock bench right over there. And has to do with some flat rocks over there, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But there's been a lot of people come and go. A lot of families have celebrated a lot of joy, and just like us, a lot of families have celebrated a lot of heartbreak in this old house too in the last 132 years. When we moved in here back in 1989, this house had been abandoned for a long time. The windows were falling out of it, the roof was all rotten, and it was in a bad state of disrepair. There was a colony of skunks that lived under the house. It's on pier and beam. And there was a colony of ringtails that lived in the attic, and there was a friendly snake who pitched his tent in one of the bathtubs. There were holes, windows were knocked out, there were holes in the walls. It was in a pretty bad state of disrepair. And I came down here for a week by myself, and I stayed in this old vacant house. There was no furniture in it at all. I threw a pallet on the floor. I slept there, and all the moans and groans and creeping of a then 99-year-old house, especially when the wind blew, was rather disturbing late at night. Pat and the boys were up in Fredericksburg, a town about 45 miles from here, finishing up there, but I had to come down here and go to work. So I spent a week here in this house by myself, and it was creepy at night. Many a night and many times through the night, I would get up with one of these things and walk around just trying to find where that perpetrator was making all that noise, but never seemed to find anything. But nevertheless, we patched up all the holes in this old house, and we got to where it became home in a short amount of time. After we'd lived here for several years, I began to notice that through the years I'd been seeing something in this house. Commonly when I walked into a hallway, I would see something white, just a little flash of something white, and it would catch my eye, not necessarily the same hallway, but just different areas through this old house. I commonly would see something out of the side of my eye, and it was always a white, just kind of a flash. It wasn't in the image of a person or anything like that, but I started seeing it very, very frequently. And I started remembering back that I had seen that a lot. I just didn't really log it down in my memory as anything important, but it got to be quite frequent. And one time some friends of our family were out here, and we were over by that big tree right there, and the lady looked at me and she said, "Lee, do you ever see ghosts out here?" And I said, "No." And she said, and I asked her, I said, why would you ask a question like that? And she said, "I don't know." She said, "I just kind of feel the presence of all the people who have lived here in the past." And I just thought, you're an idiot, and kind of discounted that right then. And here comes the noise, so we'll hurry up with this video. But we later learned from the old man who he and his dad used to ride up and down the creek on horseback that somewhere along the line in this, that is so annoying, we're gonna have to deal with that all day long, but somewhere along the line there was a little 4-year-old girl that passed away here, and that she was buried in the yard. So my wife and I looked all over this place, and the only thing that we could find under this big beautiful tree right by this old bench that's been here for scores of years, right here by all these flat top rocks, and right here underneath this, what we think is a headstone, is probably a little 4-year-old girl. And as you can see, she was buried here a long, long time ago. There's 2 little handprints. There's an S under one, a T under the other, and then the date. And right here, there used to be something made out of cast iron that was embedded into this stone. So one day, after seeing one of those little flashes of light, I made sure nobody else was around, and I came outside under this beautiful oak tree, and I sat on this old bench right here that's been here scores of years, and I looked down on all these flat rocks, and I looked down at that little, what we probably think is a headstone, and I whispered to that little 4-year-old girl. I said, "If you're unsettled, if you're lonely, if you're scared, if you're missing your family, I want you to know you can share mine. You can be part of us. You can be part of our good times and our sad times. And you will always be loved." And then I just sat there for a little bit. And then I thought, "Lee, you're an idiot." And I got up and went on with my daily do. But I will tell you this, ever since that day, I've not seen one more of those little flashes of light. Well, folks, you have endured 3 of the corniest ghost stories you will ever hear. So thank you so much for hanging with me this long. Can't believe I have to put up with that all day today. They were here until 7 o'clock last night, so gonna be a fun day. I think I'll put earplugs in and get on the shredder and see if I can make more noise than they are. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for stopping by today. Thanks for enduring these 3 goofy stories. If you have a ghost story, please put it down in the comment section. This could wind up being one of the best comment sections ever. God bless you all. Thanks for being here once again. And I want you to always remember I love you. Bye-bye now. So what you doing there, Al?
Neutering a dog, Dad.
All right. Who's gonna learn you?
That's a mistake.